going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk to you about a comic book that I do not have in my hands. This was a digital comic that I read on the Hoopla app, which is an app that you can check out books, movies, and music. My library is using it, so I was dabbling around with it, and I found the 4-issue X-Men: Empyre miniseries. And colon is an appropriate word because this miniseries feels like something that came out of my colon. I really and truly hated this miniseries, more than I probably should have. So I have not read the Empyre miniseries or event. I have not read that. I have not read any other story that was tying in with the Empyre event. My understanding is it has something to do with Skrulls and Kree. They're either at war with each other, which what else is new, or they are joining forces under the leadership of Hulkling from the Young Avengers, and there's some kind of invasion. This story has absolutely nothing to do with any of that. Neither the Skrulls nor the Kree are actually mentioned at all in this story. Now, I just did a quick Google search to see what Empyre is about. I read about one sentence, and then that was good enough for me. So maybe what happens here does have something to do with Empyre, but doesn't have anything to do with Skrulls or Kree. So I'm not really sure why this story was billed as an Empyre tie-in when, at first glance, to someone like me, it has nothing to do with that event. So the plot of this is that an alien species called the Kotati, they are a plant-based species. They have decided to invade Earth, and like I say, have nothing to do with the Kree or the Skrull. My understanding is the Kree is just the Kree. They might be bad guys, they might be out there conquering some planet, but a planet that they conquer does not then become part of the Kree Empire. When the Kree are going to go out there and do something bad, it's just a bunch of Kree. The same with the Skrulls. Now the Shi'ar Empire, you look at the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, and there's like 24 different alien species represented there. There are a whole bunch of species under the umbrella of the Shi'ar Empire. So if the Empire's storyline involved the Shi'ar doing something, then it would have made sense that you have this species that's part of the larger Shi'ar Empire, and they are fighting the X-Men here. But the Kotati, I don't know if they have been introduced somewhere before. As far as I know, they don't have any connection with the Skrulls or the Kree. But they come to Genosha, and they've decided we are going to invade this planet. Simultaneously, we actually start the miniseries with Scarlet Witch asking Doctor Strange if there's any way that she can undo the events of House of M. House of M was a story that came out in, I think, 2005, where the Scarlet Witch zapped a whole bunch of people to an alternate universe, and then they tried to put a stop to it, and then she decided no more mutants. And so then there was roughly 300 mutants left, and everyone else lost their mutant abilities. And then she regrets that, and I don't know when exactly this conversation is supposed to be happening in relation to House of M, because after House of M, Scarlet Witch went into hiding for a little bit, and I am not a regular Avengers reader, so I don't know when she officially came out of hiding, but I believe this conversation that she's having has happened sometime after she came out of hiding. She is talking with Doctor Strange. She says, I want to undo the events of M-Day, and this happened 1 year before the X-Men Empyre miniseries, and Doctor Strange basically says, you cannot undo what you did, and then he kind of gets philosophical a little bit. He says, instead of undoing the bad thing that you did, you need to try and do a good thing that will outweigh the bad that you did. And so then Wanda studies for a year, and she decides she is going to try to resurrect 16 million dead mutants on Genosha. Everyone that got killed at the beginning of the Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely New X-Men run. And let's ignore the fact that this story has already happened. There was a story in about 2010 or so called Necrosha, where Selene tried to bring back all the mutants on Genosha, and they were kind of sort of undead. So this story has already been done, and I don't know if all 15 of the creators who worked on this book, it's never a good sign when you have that many people who are all needed to write a 4-issue miniseries. I have no idea why it took this many hands on deck to create this monstrosity, and furthermore, I have no idea who to blame, because I don't know if Jonathan Hickman was kind of in charge of the X-Men books at this time, so I don't know if he came up with the broad stretch of the story and then brought in all these other people people to write individual issues? I don't know. But anyway, I'm assuming that none of these people knew that there was already a story where the inhabitants of Genosha are brought back to life, or maybe, as King Solomon said, there really is nothing new under the sun, and in another 5 to 10 years they're going to do another zombie Genosha story. I don't know. But anyway, Wanda tries to bring back all the mutants and fails, and so simultaneously we have a mutant zombie story, and then we also have a plant alien story. And I can't help but wonder, because the title of the first issue is Alien Plants versus Mutant Zombies. Now, there's a computer game, I remember playing this a good 15 years ago or more, called Plants vs. Zombies. I wonder if the only reason that this stupid miniseries exists is to make this, it's not even a pun, but make this reference to the Plants vs. Zombies game. I really don't know. Anyway, so then that's your setup, is that you've got these evil plant people coming who want to invade the planet, and then you've also got your mutant zombies who want to eat brains, I guess, and then meanwhile, somewhere else, you've got Angel, Warren Worthington III, Monet St. Croix, I've never known how to pronounce her last name, who I have no idea what's going on with M. In Generation X in the 90s, you had M, and then you had Penance, and then you find out that M was actually two of Penance's younger sisters who were combined and became an older sister. I don't really know how that works, but now M can transform into Penance. I have no idea how that works. I read the last thing that I read, well, okay, so I read Peter David's X Factor run that started like right after House of M. M did not have the power to turn into Penance there. And then I read some of the, I believe, Brian Wood's Woman X-Men team. It was called just Adjectiveless X-Men, but it was a team of X-Women, and M was in at least a couple of those stories, and she did not have the ability to turn into Penance there. So I have no idea when M had this ability to transform into Penance, but the Penance of Generation X could not talk, or would not talk, I don't know. And this one can talk. So no idea what's going on there, but you've got Angel and M and Magic, and Angel and M are doing something in the business world, and then Magic says that she was basically sent to spy on them, which in her words, basically Charles Xavier doesn't trust them. And so then Angel and M go back to Krakoa. This is where all the mutants on the planet are living on Krakoa, and nobody else is allowed there, and Angel goes to basically have words with Charles Xavier, and Charles says, we wanted to see if X-Core, which is whatever Angel and M were working on, if X-Core is actually worth your energy. And if not, we want to put you guys to use doing something else. And I thought, okay, this will be interesting. A lot of times, we do get to see Cyclops and Charles Xavier kind of butting heads with each other. We don't often get to see Angel's relationship with Charles Xavier. The one time I can think of where the two of them are discussing stuff like alone would have been in the Chris Claremont era, whenever Xavier asked Angel for some money because he needed it for repairs for the X-Mansion. We don't often get a lot of Angel and Charles talking with each other. And so I thought, okay, this whole miniseries is going to kind of focus on Angel and Monet and Ilyana. Not really. There is no focus for this miniseries, and I can't help but wonder if maybe this miniseries would have been better served if we had one writer who's writing all 4 issues, and then if you start with issue 1 where you have Monet and Angel, and they want to serve the X-Men, but they have their specific skill set. Monet comes from a very wealthy family, Angel comes from a wealthy family generations back of business people, and these guys, they're running a business, and maybe they want to help mutants, but in their own little way, and maybe Xavier thinks, I don't know if that's what we want you guys to be doing. That could have been really interesting. Unfortunately, after that one conversation in issue 1, you wouldn't even know that Angel was in this miniseries. He gets brain blasted by these other people, who I will get to in a minute, and then he's basically just on the sidelines for the rest of the miniseries. There really isn't a single character or even a small group of characters that this miniseries focuses on. And so it feels very scattered, and I don't really get a chance to fall in love with any of these characters. We get a moment where Beast is ruminating on if he should steal some technology from these people. That lasts 1 page. We don't really get to focus on Beast. We get to see Magic at one point is taken over by this evil magical artifact, and she becomes a demon queen, and that lasts about 1 page. It actually lasts longer than that, but when she seemingly is going to be a threat, that itself lasts only 1 page. This miniseries doesn't really know what it wants to do. It doesn't know what it wants to be about, and that's frustrating. I don't want 4 issues of aliens and zombies and other stuff punching each other, and that's it. I want some actual substance, and I thought we were going to get that at the beginning, and then this miniseries just throws it all away. And I don't know who to blame. Jonathan Hickman and I don't know how to pronounce her name, Teenie Howard, they wrote the first issue, and then I think Jerry Dugan wrote the second issue. And so maybe Jerry Dugan just didn't know what Hickman and Howard were doing in the first issue, and so he just knows, okay, plants and zombies, and so he just does some stuff with that. I don't know. Were all these guys in the same room together when all this got hashed out? I don't know. It's frustrating when I can't yell at someone for the stupidity of this miniseries. So Angel and Monet and Magic and Multiple Man, they go to Genosha because Black Tom Cassidy says that the Krakoa Gate to Genosha does not work. Now, I should point out, I have not read any of the House of X, Powers of X era of X-Men stuff. The only thing that I've read from this era was an X-Men Fantastic Four miniseries, which was awful. I hated it. All the characters in that story were awful, and now we are 0 for 2 on stories from this era that are actually good. I read this thinking that it would be a nice little standalone story, and I guess I understood everything because I've been keeping up with a lot of the hullabaloo of what's going on since House of X, Powers of X, but I have not read any of that stuff. And so, based on what I've read here, at Krakoa, there are these gates where you can teleport anywhere in the world. And they make a pretty big deal out of that, even though they've got Magic, who, in this story, has the ability to teleport. And her power, she can create a stepping disc into Limbo. And then from Limbo, she can create a stepping disc to anywhere else, and anywhen else, because her power is time and space. And at least back in the 80s, she didn't have full control over her power. So it was always a little bit of a risk. If you go into Limbo, you might come out 6 months in the future. There was one time where the New Mutants, they did go into Limbo, and they came out in the wrong time, and that was a big deal. I haven't seen that be a thing with Magic in a while, but at one point she's complaining about how we got these gates that are connected to Krakoa, and we are always having to repair them. Okay, if you don't like it, why not just use Magic? Just let her be the shuttle for all of mutant kind. Now, she might not like that, but she's the one complaining about the Krakoa Gate. So, I don't know why she can't just teleport people, but whatever. So, they go there because Black Tom said something is wrong with the gate at Genosha, and it's because the plant people, they landed on Genosha, and then their ship has rooted and has corrupted the Krakoa Gate. So then a group of, I can't remember if it's the plant people or if it's the zombies, one is running from another, and they run into this small mutant team, and then this group of elderly women called the horticulture come in. Now, there's a real word called horticulture, which has to do with plants and growing plants and stuff, but this group is called, like, the horde culture. And basically their whole thing is a turn of phrase that I guess is supposed to be funny. It's not. None of what these guys say is funny, and somehow they have hacked the Krakoa Gate, and so they've teleported onto Genosha. I don't know how they know that something is going on, and furthermore, I don't really know what their whole thing is. Basically, they're here to collect samples from the plant aliens. I don't know what their character motivation is. What I miss about reading X-Men comics is you have this racist old human who says, I don't like mutants, so we have created a bunch of Sentinels. Okay, I don't like racism, I don't condone it, but I get what that guy is about. Bolivar Trask or Stephen Lang, I don't like it, I don't agree with it, but I get what they are doing. I don't get what horticulture is doing. All they're doing is they'll say something like, oh, Ethel, shut the F word up. And it will actually say, shut the F word up. And I guess maybe the writers think that this is hilarious, and it's really not. There's nothing to these characters. I don't know what they're about, and if this is supposed to be part of, like, a bigger thread, I know that these characters were introduced in a comic before this, because a couple of characters act like they've seen them before. So if the horticulture running storyline is supposed to be tied up later on, then that's really bad. When I'm reading an X-Men Empyre story, I want this story to tie in with the big Empyre event, which is allegedly supposed to be Skrulls and Kree. Don't bring in horticulture if you're planning on doing something big with them later. And they don't really do anything. They show up and they brain blast Angel, and so he thinks that they're super hot and he's their servant now. They brain blast Multiple Man, but they're not able to do anything with Magic or Monet. And so then basically they're there to just kind of cause chaos even more than the chaos that's already there. And then one of the dead mutants at Genosha, his name is, I think, Explodey Boy. And then we find out, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we get to that, then at one point, Magic says that we need all the telepaths from Krakoa to come to Genosha to do something. And at this point, I'm confused because we see Mr. Sinister. And I am going to get nitpicky here. There are people on the internet who will say, well, technically, Mr. Sinister is a mutant now. No, that's not how it works. If he wasn't a mutant 10 years ago, he's not a mutant now. A mutant, by definition, in the Marvel Universe, is someone who is born with those mutant powers. So Spider-Man, not a mutant. The Fantastic Four, not a mutant. Captain America, not a mutant. Thor, I'm going to say not a mutant. He has abilities that he was born with, but not a mutant. Okay? The mutants are people who, they don't have a specific origin for the powers that they have. Mr. Sinister is not a mutant. Now, he lives on Krakoa because somehow he was able to reprogram his DNA. That does not a mutant make. Also, he's not a telepath. I don't know what he's doing here. You've also got Selene, who, as far as I know, is not a telepath either. She is more of a vampire. In the old days, she would drain someone's life force, and she's like a couple thousand years old. Not a telepath, as far as I know. But anyway, you got all these telepaths who are doing something. I don't know why we specifically only needed a telepaths here. Also, earlier in the miniseries, Angel said that he would take himself, Magic, and Monet, and they would each be squad leaders, and they'd be taking a big squad, and Magneto said, no, you can bring one other person with you. For some reason, Magneto does not want there being a whole bunch of mutants there, but then, by the time we get to issue 3, I guess everything's okay, and now you can bring as many mutants as you want. And then, I'm trying to think of what happened. I just read this earlier today, and it's crazy how much and simultaneously how little actually happens. Because basically it's just mutants and zombies and plant people and then more mutants and then you got the elderly women and there's not really a whole lot happening. It's just a lot of chaos going on. And so it's hard to really talk about it. Then you have Explodey Boy. Explodey Boy died in Genosha. And I'm pretty sure he was introduced in this miniseries. So he is one of the zombie mutants. And we see him a very little bit in the first 3 issues. But it's not until issue 4 that Explodey Boy has been resurrected on Krakoa. And that is a big thing. I have, like I said, I have not read any of the Krakoa X-Men stuff. But now, any mutant that has ever died in the past, as long as they have their genetic information, they can resurrect them on Krakoa. So mutants that have been dead for 15, 20 years, like Sync from Generation X, he's back now. Explodey Boy is now back. For some reason, the X-Men have his genetic material of this guy that they never met before. There are 16 million mutants who died on Genosha, but for some reason, they have Explodey Boy's DNA. I don't know why. And so then he goes, and he is talking to his zombie self. And I actually kind of was interested in this. I like the ramifications of, I died, here's my physical body, but then I was resurrected, and so here's my soul in a new body. I like that. I thought that was interesting. Unfortunately, it lasts for about 2 or 3 pages. It does not hold the entire miniseries together. If you wanted this to be ruminations on life and death and what is the soul, if you wanted that, which I feel like that conversation should be had now that the X-Men death has no meaning and anytime you die you can just immediately be brought back, that conversation should probably be explored. But it should be longer than 3 pages in a 4-issue miniseries. There is no thematic substance that holds this miniseries together. And I didn't go into this miniseries wanting to hate it. I really had no opinion on it going into it. I have not read the Empyre story. I have not read any of the other X-Men stuff from this point of the X-Men comics, so I really had no preconceived notions about what was going to happen and what to expect. But at the end, I just don't really have anything positive to say, and I hate that because I think there could have been an okay story here. When you have a giant event, like, for example, Civil War, that's huge. That covers the entire Marvel Universe. So then, if you have Civil War : Fantastic Four, that would be specifically there to explore how are the Fantastic Four affected by Civil War, or Civil War X-Men. How are the X-Men specifically being affected by this giant event? And I really don't see that the X-Men are affected by the Empyre story because this story does not have anything to do with Empyre. And even if it did, at the end of the story, nothing really changes. The Beast was able to steal some technology from the horticulture, and so now he knows how they were able to hijack the Krakoa Gate. That's about it. That's really the only thing that's different at the end of the story than at the beginning. Oh, I completely forgot about the Scarlet Witch. Wow. Okay, so there's that. Oh, boy. Okay, so like I said, at the beginning of the miniseries, Scarlet Witch says, I want to undo the events of M-Day. Doctor Strange says, you can't do that. So then she spends a year trying to figure out how to resurrect everyone on Genosha. Then we cut forward to issue 4, where Scarlet Witch tries this and accidentally starts a zombie apocalypse. Then she goes back to Doctor Strange and says, I need your help undoing another boo-boo that I made. And he yells at her, and honestly, it will never get old seeing people take Scarlet Witch to task for all the stupid stuff that she's done, including this. So seeing Doctor Strange yell at Wanda was amazing. Just, mwah, I loved it. And so she's telling him what all she did, and then he basically says, okay, I can't undo your spell, but I can create another spell that will basically render your spell kind of moot, sort of. And he says, basically, in 30 days, your spell, the effects will be over. And she says, well, what happens if... And he casts a spell so that none of the zombies can leave the island. And she says, okay, well, what happens if somebody comes here? And he says, let's hope that doesn't happen. Doctor Strange, are you a freaking moron? You are on speaking terms with the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Spider-Man. Tell everyone that you know, do not go to Genosha. There is a zombie outbreak there because Wanda Maximoff is a freaking moron, a lot like I am, because I decided not to tell anyone that there's a zombie outbreak on Genosha. So the X-Men go to Genosha, they have no idea what's going on because Doctor Strange decided not to tell anyone what Scarlet Witch did. This is just stupid. I hated this miniseries. Anyone out there who thinks that the Krakoa-era X-Men stuff is good, I defy you to convince me of that, because so far I've read 2 miniseries from this era, and I hated both of them. Absolutely hated. I do have the House of X, Powers of X trade paperback. I'm dreading reading it. I haven't read it yet. I am dreading it after the nauseating experience that I went through reading this miniseries and the X-Men Fantastic Four team-up. I really don't want to read anything from this era. I just want the X-Men to go back to not being in the hands of Jonathan Hickman and all of his cronies. I just don't want any of it. I don't want it. So those are my thoughts on this miniseries. I highly recommend you do not read it. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed my mental breakdown, and I will see you guys in the future with something else. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day. Catch you later.